Hi, and welcome to Love Manifesto Podcast. I am your host and executive director, Dr. Tangi. The premise for the show is to explore, to analyze, and to manifest thriving, platonic, intimate, and business relationships. Today, I have on the set is none other than the Reverend Dr. Alison Mills Newman. She is an actress, an author, a producer, a director, and also a reverend of the
Yes,
gospel of
admit
Jesus Christ.
by divine providence, who would have ever thought? I never thought I would ever preach the gospel
Oh
or
my
share the
gosh.
word of God. The Lord is full of surprises.
Yes,
Yes,
he
he
is.
is. He
Yes,
is.
he is. And today you're going to help me unpack finding God.
Yes, yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
So you started out as an actress at the age of 12 years old
Mhm,
on an iconic TV series.
mhm.
I believe it was on the 60s, 70s, something like
Yes, it
that.
was NBC. Julia, starring Diane Carroll, and the um, the premise of the show was a African American nurse in a nice neighborhood, interracial neighborhood, raising her son by herself, a single mom, and to present a positive, beautiful image of a black woman during that season and that time. And I played the babysitter, and that was an amazing opportunity that came about really after a lot of upheaval in American culture and society as it relates to protests with Martin Luther King and um, the Black Panthers and Huey Newton and just all of that movement of black people coming together and demanding more access to opportunity in America. Because prior to Julia, there weren't many television shows where black people had starring roles or major roles. There were very few black people on television, period. So whenever a black person was on television, everybody in the neighborhood was like, "Oh, there's somebody colored." They call us colored, right? There's somebody colored. So when Julia came out and I was on TV and Diane Carroll, like that was huge. That was so huge. Like today, there are more opportunities for black people, thank the Lord. And so we're considered that TV series is considered a pioneering television series as it relates to American history and African American history in terms of cinema and television. So I'm really humbled that I was given that opportunity and given that role. But that was a lot of fun, and and Diane Carroll was a great mentor and friend and um, working peer. I guess I might say, even though I was 17, I do want to say, Dr. Tanji, that all of those amazing people that I grew up with when I was a child, including Maya Angelou and Bea Richards and Diane Carroll, and a lot of people that may not even be remembered now, like Sammy Davis Jr., and even our beloved Harry Belafonte that just recently passed
Yeah.
away. I grew up around all of those people, and they were much older than I was at the time. But I do want to say that they embraced me and as a peer, as an equal artist. And that was very strengthening to me as a young person. They didn't condescend to me or dismiss me because of my age. They really embraced me as an equal artist and encouraged me in the gifts and talents that I had, that I later realized and have come to know that God gave me. But that's what was so marvelous about that generation of black artists, is that it was imperative to them to reach back and encourage others in their race, and it was imperative to them to reach back and open doors and make ways for other artists. I remember Sammy Davis saying, "Well, I don't have to make a way for you. You've already made it, but that's what I do. I'm here in this position so I can reach back and bring other people through." And so they they encouraged me, and they did that for others. So those artists, those black artists, were amazing human beings, very generous, and they felt a responsibility towards humanity, the human family, but also a responsibility towards rightly and lovingly and respectfully representing their race. That was dear to them. That was dear to us back in
Absolutely.
the day. Yeah.
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 Tell us, how did you land that role? Because it's all seemingly new um, for African Americans. Not that African Americans were not in film and TV, but how did you land that role?
Well, originally, I was a writer privately before I realized I was an actress. Before I was 12, like around 8, 9, 10, 11, I would like write poems and write songs and write lyrics. And then I found myself in the bathroom and sort of pretending certain roles. And I found myself pretending. And so eventually, somewhere around 12, when I was watching television, Dr. Tantra, I realized, oh, that's what I do when I'm in the bathroom. I'm pretending. So I'm an actress. So that was my first connection in terms of identifying what it is that I was doing in addition to writing when I was in the bathroom or walking along in the rain and imagining I was a certain character that I was acting. So I asked my parents if I could be um, an actor, and my mother was very supportive because she had acted when she was in college. But my father was not supportive because he felt that actresses, they had a reputation of sleeping with producers and etc. to get their roles and to become famous, and he wanted to protect me, as a father would naturally feel that way. But my mother was very adamant and encouraged my father to realize that she would protect me if he would give me a chance. And so he did open his heart to allow me to. And so she searched for acting schools or some place to place me. And to the amazement, there was an acting workshop, a theater workshop in Los Angeles, California, where I was growing up at the time, that was directed by the legendary Frank Severa, who is an African American, but he had a chameleon appearance where he could look black, but he could also look Mexican or Italian. He could look various, sundry, races or nationalities. So he had gotten a lot of opportunities more than normal because of his appearance could be different, nationalities, and so he had some income from his working as a character actor and having roles in Hollywood where in a time when a lot of black people didn't. And so he had this workshop, and Maya Angelou was there, Bea Richards was there, um, Yaphet Kotto was there, a lot of Don Mitchell, who went on to star in Our Side, and I was there, and um, we did what actors do in acting workshops. We did different plays. I did Romeo and Juliet. I played Juliet and Shakespeare. So I grew up doing Shakespeare. I grew up doing James Baldwin. I grew up doing Thornton Wilder's play Our Town. And after all of the civil rights movement, Hollywood came looking for actors. And so where do they go? Where do they look? And so they heard about the American Theater of Being, where Frank Severa had a group of black actors, and they asked if there was a kid there or anybody that could play, a teenage role. So initially, Frank Severa suggested me and recommended me for the audition. So, sort of like being prepared, being in the right place at the right time, I'll put it that way. I encourage everybody, God will open a door for you. Just be prepared, just be in preparation. And even though there weren't any doors, by faith, God opened a door for me, as He opens a door for all of us by faith. And I auditioned, and they did do a nationwide sort of casting call. But when I got the job and I was on set with Diane Carroll, she said, "You were the best. You were the best out of everyone." And so I have to thank, Frank Severa and the God-given gift, and Frank Severa helping me hone it and be in preparation, because when I was on set with Diane Carroll and all these various actors and the different episodes, I was never intimidated. I never felt insecure. I always felt like I belonged because I had been in workshop with all these amazing actors, and I had been in workshop with them encouraging me and as to how beautiful the scene was that I had worked on, or how gifted I was. and they treated me so equally as a peer that when I was elevated to this larger platform, the experience and the love that they gave me the security to know that I belonged there and I was able to do my very best. So yeah, I thank God for them, Frank Severa, and as I said, that affirmation that the older actress gave me, because I was really the only other child there, except for Kyle Johnson. You may not, you may remember him. Kyle starred in The Learning Tree, and his mother was Nichelle Nichols, and also Nichelle Nichols was in the workshop, who later became Uriah in Star Trek on television,
Okay.
the African American gorgeous lady
Yes,
that just
yes,
recently
yes,
passed away.
yes.
I grew up with them, and they were all starving actors, but my mom and my dad would have them over for dinner and encourage them and see how eventually, as they persevered, and also, the culture was holding the nation, accountable.
Yes.
Doors opened, and there they were, and they went on and they did great things, and God opened doors and made ways for them.
Hello, Sam Wagner, pastor of New Foundation Church International here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I hope you come and join one of our worship services with us real soon. Join us on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and Sundays at 10 a.m. Just know this, we're here to help you to grow in your faith so that you can walk by faith and not by sight. God bless.
So it's really beautiful for me to say from experience to share with anyone out there. If you're endeavoring to accomplish any dream or any purpose, just go step by step, and don't despise the day of small things. Don't despise the day of small things, because there's no small thing in our preparation. It's also helpful and it's also powerful. You
Yeah.
know,
So, what are your thoughts? What were your thoughts about Maya Angelou when you first met her?
as I said, all of them were amazing and powerful. Maya Angelou was um, for me to answer that, for me to go back into my childhood, and I remember her. I looked up to her as an amazing, strong queen. Um, that's
Yes.
all I can say.
Oh,
It's
yeah. I was
an
just wondering
amazing,
if you.
strong queen. She remember it seemed that she had a deep, a deep and mellow voice, and I was intrigued by her voice, and she um, had a charisma that held the audience. When she was on stage, practicing or rehearsing her scene, you were captivated by her presence and by her being in the moment, and her ability to make the moment real, and not be acting, not to be acting the role, but to be living the role. And it was powerful. It was from the heart. And that's what I remember about her. Yeah. She too was very generous to me. And my mother and her were good friends. Diane Carroll and my mother were good friends. They they these actors and actresses, they embraced my mother. I think my mother, like I said, in college she'd done some acting, so that little acting bug and in my mom kind of connected with these elegant women, and my mother was a very, very elegant black woman, just gorgeous, and Diane Carroll was very gorgeous, and Maya was very gorgeous, and so they had that gorgeous inside and outness in common.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You wrote this book,
Yes, ma'am.
Francisco. I haven't gotten the opportunity to read it uh, in its entirety because I have like about 10 books that I've purchased.
And thank you for your support and coming out to the Mito bookstore here in Atlanta, Georgia. That was very kind of you. I know you're busy, so thank you.
No, you're worthy of my stopping by.
Oh,
I purchased some books and I thought, so what did I spend my money on? Just from just what I have read, I know it's a great that it is a great investment, and I'd like for you to give us a synopsis of this book and why people should purchase it.
well, um, can I read a little?
Absolutely.
Okay. Excuse me. Beautiful people, lovely, amazing people. I wrote this book when I was 20 years old, Doctor.
Wow.
Tanchi. Like I said earlier, my first gift that I was aware of was my writing, but acting is where I first experienced fame and professionalism, where I was paid for it, you know. But I had always been a writer, and I some reviewers have called me a runaway child star because when I turned 19, at that particular time, almost 50 years ago, I was presented with very gross, compromising, depraved, degrading casting couch experience. And at the age of 19, I was traumatized by it. And like I said earlier, I was trained. I grew up with some of the greatest gifted actors: Maya Angelou, Bea Richards, Frank Severa, Harry Belafonte, all of these people that affirmed my gift as an artist, that I was an artist, and my responsibility as a black artist, those two things. So when I was presented with the casting couch, it warred against what I had been taught by not only my parents, that, you know, my value as a human being and my value as an artist. It warred against that, and I couldn't identify. And I remember telling one of the producers that came out of the office and laid on the floor like this, naked, and I won't describe the rest of it. I remember saying to him, "I'm an actress, I'm an artist, I'm not a prostitute." And he mocked me and laughed at me, and he said, "Well, you won't go far." So I was what they call blackballed by Hollywood at the age of 19. And in the process, I ran away and I did some plays in New York with the Mary Baraka and off-Broadway plays with black playwrights, and sort of returned to my roots, my black roots of being in the black theater. Frank Severa, when I first started with Maya Angelou, Bea Richards, that was sort of like black theater. And so when I ran away to New York, I returned to black theater and black artists, where again I found affirmation. I wasn't making any money hardly or anything in comparison to what I experienced financially in Hollywood, but my soul was preserved, and my understanding of who I was preserved. And so I thank God when I look back at my youth that I made that decision and I didn't sell my soul to the devil at the age of 19 for increased fame. I was already famous, but for more fame and for more fortune. And so I fell in love with a young filmmaker, independent filmmaker, one of the original independent filmmakers from back in the day, 50 years ago. I know there's a lot of amazing independent filmmakers, and I'm in awe of you, and I encourage you. But Francisco, this book is about one of the original genius independent filmmakers, and it's called Francisco, and I'll just read a little bit from the first chapter. Can I do it? So the first title is "I Wanted to Make It When I Realized I Couldn't Fly." It goes, "My jazz man don't know how to sing. He don't know nothing about no woodwinds, no drums, no brass, no strings. But he's so fine. His music's in his eyes, and he plays what he sees with a funky saxophone sheen on the silver screen. I got up at 11 this morning after laying around, rolling around in the bed, hugging around in the bed with this friend of mine. I say friend, 'cause I ain't heard him qualify the relationship yet." So that's just a little part of the beginning, introducing the reader to I wasn't saved, so I didn't know not to live in sin, right? So you can't do what you don't know. So the title of this program is Learning About God or Finding God.
Finding God.
Finding God. So
Finding God.
I just want everyone to know that later on in life, when I became a new creature in Christ, I repented of fornication and gave my life to Christ. And got married and married. But anyway, this is a description of me meeting him, my first look into his face. And so Francisco knocks on the door at this house that I'm in where we're having a dinner party, right? And so it says, knock, knock on the door. And Tad said, opening it, here comes one young man who thinks he can change the world. He was tall and dark with a conquistador mustache, with some blue corduroy pants on, some kind of yellow and red striped sweater, and those shoes. He had on some blue shoes that had this yellow tongue sticking out of it and a red mouth with thick wooden heels. And I loved those shoes. I had a light for Francisco just behind those crazy shoes. He walked through that door with such vigor and perseverance in life, man. But he didn't pay me no mind. I was all in black again with my hair all wavy, bushed out, parted in the middle, woolly-fied, looking unheard of, and one of my eyes was bloodshot. Shall I read more?
Wait, why was your eye bloodshot?
I don't know. Sometimes you just sleep on the guy.
Okay.
I don't even know, but it
Yeah.
was just one of
Oh,
my
okay.
eyes just
Oh, okay.
was bloodshot.
Okay.
You got it. Yeah. There you go. You got it. Keep going. Keep going.
Do you have time? Can I read
Yes.
more?
30 seconds.
Okay, 30 seconds. Okay. Here's one experience about being on a TV series. On one TV show I worked on at the age of 17, one of the first TV series that a black woman starred in, I remember asking the producer if I could wear my own hair, because he had me wearing a long fall that fell all down my back and hit midway in the center of my behind. Well, wasn't nobody white in America wearing their hair like that, much less black. And even if they were, if he wanted long hair, I had long hair at the time. And so I asked him one day on the set if I could please stop wearing that wig, because I was 17, playing a 17-year-old girl, and what was wrong with my own hair. And that man looked me straight in the eye and said my hair looked like rats had been sucking on it. And I should have known I was working for a man who was making a fortune off of a people he thought so little of. So, I was trained as an actress that you create the character. And so they had I was wearing this long wig. If you look at any of the Julia segments on YouTube, had this long wig, and it was the 60s and 70s. Kids my age, at that age of 17, weren't wearing wigs. They had naturals, and they were embracing their own hair. And so I wanted my character, I came respectfully, and as an artist and as an actor, discussing with the producer, which was my responsibility. I had been taught as an actress to help bring them up to maybe a better representation or a truer character to a 17-year-old black girl at that time. And he insulted my hair, and it's really interesting when I read that part. Our hair has always been a conundrum in America, and it's really interesting to see now that corporate America is beginning to let us
Yes.
as Black women have our own hair and not have to wear wigs or not have to straighten it. You have the option to straighten if you choose to, but you don't have to anymore. You can wear your own natural hair. But 50 some odd years ago, total insult. Your hair looks like rats have been sucking on it. So it's beautiful to see how America has grown a little bit in it
Absolutely.
and embracing our hair. So that's why you should read the book. It takes us back 50 years ago to an African American true story of my search for how to recreate my career, hold on to my soul, and in the midst of it, the Lord is there protecting me. And it's so beautiful because I wasn't saved. I had been raised in church, but I had backslidden and took on the culture of Hollywood and the culture of that time. Love the one you're with, and the free love and etc.